Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's me Anna again. Today we're going to be covering all the books I read in the month June of 2025 because I have not been reading a lot these past few months, but the month of June, since I had my holidays, I did read quite some books. So let's get into it without wasting any more time. Okay, so the first book I read was My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otisa Moshfegh. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. It was released in 2018 and I love this book. I honestly loved it. I already have a full-on video about this on my channel if you want to see in detail, wherein basically we have this young in her 20s main character who remains nameless throughout the book. She has not been given a name because her personality is anonymous and also no one could really see her for what she was. That's the reason why her name remains nameless. She is this character who's very young, privileged enough to have a life where she doesn't have to work for money, and she basically decides that she doesn't want to do this anymore. She feels like some mental blockage is going on in her life, and she decides that she's going to take a year of rest and relaxation where she basically pops pills and takes fake prescriptions from her psychiatrist, and she just knocks off to sleep. And that's basically how she's planning to spend an entire year without any social interaction. We have some other characters in the book which play an important role. Her so-called best friend, a guy that she isn't quite yet over, the psychiatrist, and her mom. What I loved about this book is how there was just one character, and the idea of the book in the beginning sounded so monotonous and so boring. Like, what could possibly happen, and how can we have a 300-page book about her 365 days off? But that is what made this book so amazing. I love a book with least amount of characters, and we really like the books are character driven, so like literary fiction esque books. I really love that. I am new to that concept, honestly. I've read a lot of genre fiction but not a lot of literary fiction, but I've recently been getting into that and I really love this. And the main themes of the book were emotional detachment, privilege, nihilism, depression, escapism, numbness, grief, and how a person deals with grief, like their personal perception of that grief. Consumer culture, alienation, all of those things covered in this book. I honestly love the concept, and any book that's set in New York City, even though we don't get to see a lot of the New York City, I love that. And this book is basically based in her time, so it's the year 2000 when she decides to take that year of rest and relaxation, and the book basically ends on 9/11. Fabulous writing, love the way it's very humorous, it's very fun, even the topic being really dark. I think the author really does a very good job at portraying the book in a way where it's very easy to read and digest, if that makes sense. I loved it. I give it a 4.5 stars out of 5, and let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. The second book I read was The Stranger by Camus. Yeah, I again hope I'm saying that right, because I know as a person whose name is mostly mispronounced all the time, I know how it feels. But anyways, so this is obviously the classic literature that I think is really very popular among people who read a lot of classics. This was a very short read, a very small book, and it was released in 1942. It is originally actually in French. Obviously I'm not that good in French. Yeah, I obviously read the English translated version. Okay, so in here we start the story with a main character. This time it's a man. I don't know if his name is given or not. Anyway, so basically our main narrator, he receives the news of his mom's death and he arrives on the funeral. He seems to be really emotionally flat because this is a really short novel, so we don't have any backstory of him or anything, and he's just like there on the funeral and he doesn't seem to express any emotions whatsoever. He's not feeling sad, he's not crying, anything. The only thing he's feeling is heat and the absurdity of it all and everything. Then obviously he goes back and he decides, he was like really like sort of flat with all the people around him. There were people who knew his mother really like not that well as compared to him, and they were expressing so much grief, so much sadness, so much desperation, and he was just there like, yeah, it's sad, whatever. And he just goes on about his life. After that, after the funeral, I think he meets a woman with whom he starts a very casual relationship, like nothing too extreme, nothing too extra, and this woman seems to be falling for him, but he's very casual about it. He's like, yeah, if you want to marry, we can marry. If you don't, we don't. It's okay. Like, I don't mind anything. He carries on with that emotional flatness, and he is there with some of his friends. Basically, the plot goes on to a point where he goes on and he actually kills an Arab in cold blood. because he was irritated and he was angry and he was this. And basically then that's followed by a trial where he has to face the judge, and he's on trial for two things: for the murder and for not showing any emotion on his mother's demise, to which he's like, I feel what I feel. I don't feel it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. He doesn't lie. He's very absurdly honest. He's emotionally flat. Obviously, I've said that word like 4 times now. This is just it. This is the entire story of the situation. But the way it's covered, it's like, it really compels you to see that how life must go on. Like, the universe is indifferent as to what you do and everything. And the themes here were obviously emotional detachment, absurdity of life, again, grief and someone's perception of grief. I believe that's again something that's repetitive. Consequences of action, your freedom, like, do we really have free will or not, our emotions and emotional attachment to a lot of different things, and our emotional perception to a lot of different things. And also it pushes us to question morality. I believe, like, morality is a big thing in this. Like, oh, are you a bad person for not feeling sad when your mother died? So these are like really compelling ideas about the book, which the book covers. It's a really short read and I think everyone can read it. I would personally rate it a 3.5 out of 5, although it was a really good read, and by the end of it I was like, what's happening? At the same time, it did not quite stick with me. Like, as you know, I don't remember the name of the character and everything, and I read it in the beginning of the month, so again, that makes sense, but it didn't quite stick out with me as much. Okay, so the third book I read this month was White Nights by Dostovesky, and again, a very short read. Like, you can literally read it in one sitting, although I didn't. I actually did 2 sittings first, in which I also tried to narrate it on my page. If you see that video, that's still there, and for some reason I was just like, yeah, no one's really watching it. Then I just continued. In the third sitting I finally read it, and it was an amazing book. Like, this was my first Dostoevsky book, and I will say, although a very short read, very amazingly written. Like, I loved it. It was published in 1848, and the genre is obviously romantic fiction, psychological fiction, and obviously the Russian literature, so that all those categories are what's happening here. So the story here follows a narrator. Why do none of these narrators have a name? I'm pretty sure the narrator here did not have a name or did not disclose the name as such. So we don't know his name, but we do know his love interest's name. The story was set in Petersburg. Yeah, Petersburg is the place where the story is set in, and the reason why it's called White Nights is because the dusk never fully sets in. So the night time, it's always dusky. There's never fully a night. It's never fully black. It's never fully gone. It's not dark like that. So that's why it's called White Nights. And again, the reason why the nights are white is because he's meeting up with this girl, and her name is Nastenka. And oh my god, this book, like, half of the words in the book were Nastenka. It is literally this thin of a book. It's like 100 pages max, and 50 pages of them are just him saying Nastenka, and he loves calling her name, you can tell that. So basically, our narrator is someone who has been alone his whole life. He has had no friends, no relatives, no nothing whatsoever. He walks around the streets of Petersburg and he has no sense of like human connection or anything whatsoever, and whatever little communication he has, it's just like he can't fit in. He's the weirdo, and he's just like there existing, but there's no sense of connection here, right? And he basically finds this one girl, Nastenka, and during the night time, and he has a conversation with her, and just within that one night, he fell for her, because he is not spoken to any woman in his life ever. And over the course of the next few nights, they meet again and again, and they talk, and within, like, literally the first night he fell in love with her, and literally the second, third night, I think this book had about 4 nights in it, and within those 4 nights the story continues, and that's all about there is. And basically he feels like, okay, this love might grow, there might be something to it, and there's a point where even Nastenka, gives him a sense of like replication towards his love. So deep down he's like, oh my god, like, this could really happen, like, I wouldn't be alone for the rest of my life. And during the course of their conversations, you can really understand how deeply painful this man's life is. Like, he has had no ounce of happiness whatsoever in his life, and this is his only hope. But the thing about Nastenka is, plot twist, she's already in love with someone else who left her, and he has no signs of coming back, and that's where he sees a sense of hope for himself. But guess what, by the end of the book, Nastenka gets her lover back, and our narrator is left alone yet once again. And the part that's actually saddening about this book is that after all of this, when he thinks back to it, he's not even sad or angry. He's just happy that he could have those 3 to 4 nights of happiness in his life, and for those 3 4 nights he wasn't alone. He had someone to share his sorrow with. And honestly, oh my god, like, even though you might think that, oh, the plot is all gone, what do I have to read it for? You just read it to find out this plot line of it is something that is inevitable and something that you can expect to happen. It's not anything that really blows your mind. It's just the writing of it all, the character, and the way he perceives this entire situation is what's really compelling. I rate it a 4.5 out of 5. Okay, so the next book in line is Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Basterica. I really know I said that wrong. It was published in 2017. It's originally in Spanish, and I read the English translated version because I do not know Espanol. So, this book, it's a dystopian horror. It is sadistic. It is a fiction. Obviously, it's a fiction. I mean, it's a speculative fiction, and also it is like a social commentary. And oh my god, I don't think I've ever read a piece of like literature like this, even remotely like this before. Like, I already know I'm gonna make a detailed video about this, but if you want me to, like, drop that down in the comments below just to push me to do that. I have to do that, but yeah, whatever. This book, oh my god, I loved it. I loved every single bit of it. I loved how gore and disturbing it was. So basically, let's get into it. The story follows a near future dystopia. It talks about a virus that infects all the meat, all the animals around people, due to which people can't eat meat now. That virus has been infected in a way that if you eat that meat, the virus infected meat, you will end up dying. So people are thrown to a place where they could either be vegetarians or just eat other people. Yeah, I think you can see where this goes. This book is about cannibalism, and cannibalism not only being legalized but normalized to a point where everyone's eating. The thing about it is there's a sense of euphemism here. The human meat is called heads. They're called heads, the people who are gone, the people who go for slaughter, and also their meat is called special meat. Instead of like being given some name or like whatever, it's called special meat, so that there's a sense of like objectification there of human life, of course. And I will not get too much into the detail here about the story. We follow the narrator. I forgot his name. He had a name here. Marcos is the narrator. Marcos is a person who works in one of these slaughter things. He really condemns the idea of human meat. I don't think he really eats it either as much. I don't think, not to say that makes it okay, but it's like he doesn't, like, he has his morals, and because we're reading the story, we're looking at the story from his perspective, he does not really engage in this activity at all. He thinks the world is doomed and everything is over and all of that. But oh my god, the story of it all. Like, he's offered a head by one of the dealers that he's like sort of associated with. That head is of a woman, and the gory details they go into about the process of slaughtering that meat, of how they remove vocal cords so that they don't have to hear their screams, of all the processes that they do, and how there are ranks about this meat, like meat from good people, bad people, whatever, like infected people sold for cheap, and this kind of meat, like, I don't know, there was some sort of like a term which was used for the new, like first generation something meat or something. So there was like so much going on in here, and then this man Marcos, who does not involve in all of that, gets like that human head, and he's like, what am I supposed to do with that? And the rest of the story goes on about that. I will not give you any spoilers. I think this is enough to raise your curiosity in order to want to read that book, and please read it. I will be making a summary about it, covering everything inside the book. This was such an amazing book, like, and you might hate me for saying that. For people who have read the book, I know I read some of the reviews and some of them were good, some of them were really bad, but I personally love how bad it was. Like, I rated a 4 out of 5 about the idea, the emotions. The themes in this book is obviously, first of all, dehumanization because of cannibalism. Moral decay, power, privilege, community, and how like there are ranks to the community. How language really masks brutality. Like something could be so brutal, but the way you communicate it, the way you speak it, the way you perceive it, the way you convey to other people can really bring it down a notch. So language is like a very big barrier. It can also be like something that really changes the entire perception of a person. There's themes of loneliness, grief, and everything. Like all of these books have grief in them. By now, do you not know my taste? I don't read happy literature. There's a lot of happiness in my life. When I read literature, I try to understand other people's grief. But anyways, so content warning though, there is a lot of cannibalism, obviously. There is sexual violence, there is body brutality, all of those things, and obviously there's human slaughter, so you can imagine how that goes. So if this is like a triggering topic for you, all of these things, then don't read it, because it will be stuck with you for quite a long time. I could not get this book out of my head, and I could not read another piece of literature for at least 3 days after, because you see how many books I've read, you know that it was not easy for me to do that. Because I thought in the beginning of the month of June, I was like, by the end of the month I have to make this video. I've never done a video like this because I've never read more than 3 books in a month, so I was like, yeah, we're gonna do this time. The next book that I read was Almond by sohn Pyung. Please, last one, let this one slip, please. I know the next one, you all know the next one. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So obviously this is a Korean literature piece that was translated to English. Again, there's a lot of translated pieces here. This was published in 2017 and then translated to English, and the genre here is literary fiction, coming of age, and of psychological fiction, obviously. So let's get into the story of it. Okay, so basically over here, the narrator of our story, Yoonjae, is a kid who's born with this condition, alexithymia. I hope I'm saying that right. So basically this is a psychological situation where the amygdala inside your brain, which is like an almond shape thing, it doesn't really work well. This is the part of the brain that is responsible for us to feel emotions, and since the amygdala or the almond in his brain is not really working properly, he cannot feel or express any emotions like anger, fear, sympathy, love, laughter, anything. Like he does not feel any emotions, and you always see him with a blank face. So as he's growing up, he grew up with his mom and her mom. So like his mother and grandmother, he grew up with them. His mom was a single mother. He was grown up in a loving environment where her mom and her grandmom did a really big deal for him to help him out as to how should he mimic those emotions, so that he's not picked upon at school, he's not like considered to be the weirdo, he can fit in and have a normal life like most of the kids usually do. And our boy struggles with it a little bit, but at the same time he kind of finds out his wild cards, how to make it work for him. He just understands that sometimes you just have to keep nodding and keep a little blank face and read the room, and according to that, like whatever it is, like he tries to cope with that. But the thing turns around, that's where our story like really begins, is that on his 16th birthday, his mom and his grandmom and him, all of them, they went out for dinner, and while they're exiting the dinner, his mother and grandmother get killed in front of his eyes by a random stranger who's just like killing people. And he saw it in front of his eyes, and obviously because he can't experience any emotions, he does not cry, he does not. Why? Oh my god, why are all the books, oh my god, did I have a pattern here? I did not. I just noticed that all the books that I read this month have to do with a person not being able to feel emotions, or not wanting to feel emotions, or running away from human emotions, and I had no idea. I mean, for most of the books I had no idea what did they entail. I just like pool full of liquor and I dive. That's what I did with them, and now I'm just kind of like, wait, are these all the same? Is this a message for me right now? Am I too emotionally detached? Anyways, basically his life has changed, and now he's in a position where he has to continue this on his own. But will he be able to live a normal life? And he meets this guy named Gon in his school, who, let's just say, is violent and not the best boy. And that's where his life starts turning around, and now he doesn't have his mom or his grandmom to guide him through the process. Although we do have a caregiver who used to live on top of on the building above, and he basically decides to help him out through that process. Since he was still 16, he was still a minor, and the rest of the story is about how it goes. I love this book. It was a very easy read, in fact, and again, it wasn't that big of a book. I think it's around 200 something pages, so it's very easily readable in one go. And honestly, I think it's really, again, thought-provoking. The themes in this book, the essence of being human, obviously the psychological aspects of it all, emotion versus reason. We're looking at a situation from the lens of a person who does not understand emotions, but he understands reason. Nature versus nurture, and a sense of friendship or like a relationship that is away from language or reason or morals or logic or whatever. And yeah, it's a whole bunch, but definitely very, like, you should read it. I rated it a 4 out of 5, and it is very recommended by me as well. I think it's a really easy read for people who usually can't read or anything. I think it's a very good place to start. It's quiet, but it's still emotionally intense. It still holds that emotional value that you would want in a book. It's not like the kind of a book that will make you cry, but it's just like, or you know, like him being in a position where it's like, oh my god, poor boy, like he's never really in that situation ever, and because you're looking at the situation from his perspective, because he doesn't feel those emotions, he can't, you know, like make you feel them either, but he does. I mean, he can't like compel you, or he can't like exactly describe it, but you still feel the emotion. So I think that's like a really good way to look at things. And I'm actually just kind of shook as to how all these books have to do with emotions or people not being able to feel emotions. Like, all of these so far have had very similar patterns, like almost like there's a meaning behind it. Although I really picked these books at random, like there was no pattern or anything as such. I think the only book that was different was White Nights, and over there the problem was that there was a lot of emotions, so I had to balance that out by all of these books. But anyway, since we've had such similar books, let's change it up a little, shall we? So the last book that I read for this month, and the only big book that I read this month, is finally The Secret History by Donna. Finally I read the book, and I get it, and I'm so foolish for not having read that earlier. Like, oh my god, I think I just finished that book like yesterday and last night, like literally last night, and I was like and what date is it today? It's like, I think it's 30th June, and yeah, I was like, before July sets in, I just have to record this, and I have to complete Secret History. I have to complete it. I have to add this to my June list, because I was like, otherwise I'm just gonna have like 3 books sitting in there, and I could not have that. But anyways, I mean, is this really a book that I need to talk about? But if you want me to make a video, although I actually searched up some videos on it last night, and there's people who have literally done like 3-hour long like summaries of the book, and I was like, oh my god, that's amazing, and that's so detailed and everything. It literally covered the entire plot, like the juice of it all. But I thought it was amazing. But still, if people want me to make a video about it, I will do it anyways. Even if you don't want me to make a video about it, I will, obviously. But if you want me to do like a summary and like you know, ending and everything, analysis, like let me know, because I'm already on it. I'm on top of it. So the book was released in 1992 by Donna, and the thing about Donna is like, she literally took 10 years to write this book, like 10 years, and I would say worth it. Would I ever be able to do that? No, but this is amazing, like amazing. The genre is obviously dark academia, psychological thriller, and literary thriller. Okay, so our story basically follows Richard Papin, who is a unreliable little liar, by the way. He's an unreliable narrator. He comes from California, and he basically gets admission in a very elite it's a small but elite liberal arts college, right? And he's decided, he was pre-med, but he was like, I can't do this. I cannot be a doctor, nor can I work at my dad's gas station. Like, I have to get out and I have to start something of my own. He really liked literature, and he basically got into Hampton, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna study literature. He gets to know about this group of 5 elite students who basically study Greek, and they're taught Greek by their teacher Julian Moreau. Julian Moreau, who basically does not teach anyone on campus. Like, he only like handpicks his students, and he only teaches these 5 students, and that's all. He's so intrigued by the idea of it, and he's like, what's going on? And obviously he's at a stage where he's so impressionable and so desperate, to be honest. I was like but I get it, we do. I get it. She wanna come with me, I get it. Anyways, so basically what happens is that he obviously goes to Julian. He's like, I want to enroll in your class. I want to have Greek. I've studied it in school and I think I can do well. So Julian was like, I'm sorry, your class is full, and shuts the door at his face. And he's like, that went well. So basically he gets to know about the 5 people that are in that group. They're obviously the very elitist, classist and richest of them all. I will not get into the details of these characters or anything because we all already know that, and if you don't, I can make a video about it. So basically he finds these characters outside of class, and they're talking about some Greek homework, and he helps them out. He helps one of them out with one, and the guy is just like, oh my god, thank you, aren't you Richard? You're the guy who tried to get into our class with Julian. And he was like, haha, yeah. And the guy is just like, whose name is Bunny, by the way, he's just like, I'll talk to him, I'll put in a good word for you, like, you can get in. Bottom line is he gets in. And the plot twist is that basically Julian asks him that in order to attend my classes, you'll have to drop out of every other single class. Basically, I'll be teaching you all the classes from now on. Like, all the literature classes will be under me, except for French. You need to keep up your modern language, French, and you can do that by some other teacher. But other than that, that's pretty much it. And he's like, what? Excuse me? And mind you, he comes from a not so rich family, or he says so. We never know what's really going on in his family. So basically, obviously at the end of it, he just decides to give everything up, because why not? It seems interesting, let's just do it for the plot. Like, do it for the plot is basically Richard Papin theory. I think it literally originates from Richard Papin. Do it for the plot. That's literally what he does for this entire book, and he's the only one who could not afford to do it for the plot, or he says so. And that's like the start of it all. That's where he basically says his life shifts around, and there's a lot of cult activities, there's a lot of ups, lots of downs, and he experiences life from a different position. And the rest of it all is all about beauty, morality, standards, aesthetics, and how, you know, beauty can mold reality, if that makes sense. Intellectual elitism, there's power, there's dynamics within a friend group, like how the power dynamics work, there's secrecy, there's self-destruction. There's so much happening in this book. It's so dark. Academia, it's literally the definition of dark academia, and there's a lot of consequences and everything that are also involved. It's amazing. Romanticizes the wrong things, but in the right way, if that makes sense. Obviously I loved it. 5 stars from my side, and again, let me know if you want me to make a video about that, because I will. But that's all from my side, and I will try to do a video for July as well if I end up reading any books. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. If you've reached this point, like, just know that not a lot of people do, so I really love you for being here, and see you until next time.